Hey everybody, C. McLaughlin with the First Alert Forecast team, joined alongside Morgan Loew, one of our chief investigators from Arizona Family Investigates. We are live on stream here at YouTube and all of our social media platforms here at Arizona's Family. Hopefully you were just able to see Morgan's exclusive investigative piece about our Arizona dust detection system. It's a $6.5 million, one-of-a-kind system really that took off-the-shelf technology, put it all together to try to really save lives south of the valley. Morgan, you're originally from southern Arizona. You've probably done that drive up and down I-10 hundreds and hundreds of times. Let's talk about that dust corridor before we roll the story of what you've uncovered. That dust corridor between basically Eloy and Picacho Peak has been deadly.
Yeah, it's that south end of Pinal County. On Interstate 10. And you can see when you drive it, there's desert to your left, there's desert to your right, and if you're out there during the monsoon, but actually other months during the year as well, when it's dry, and you get those gusts of wind come up, the big ones, it really gets that dust whipping, and it can reduce visibility very quickly to where you can only see a couple of car lengths ahead of you. So it can be really scary out there.
Right.
And that area was identified as one of the most dangerous, one of the most deadly stretches of Interstate 10 in the state of Arizona.
And just 20-some years ago, that was just two lanes up and down, both westbound and eastbound. I mean, it was not a wide interstate down there like we see today.
Yeah, I mean, the number of cars have increased every year on Interstate 10. It's a major thoroughfare. The Phoenix metro area is a major metro area. The Tucson metro area is major.
Growing every year.
And that's east-west traffic from Los Angeles to the East Coast.
Right. So here's the setup. Each and every year in the First Alert Forecast Center, we do a monsoon special. It's our summer thunderstorm season. It's our seasonal wind shift when we get these big, giant thunderstorms juiced by moisture coming up from the Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of California, even the Pacific Ocean. And then we have this high excessive heat days of 110. You get that combination and you get these huge thunderstorms. Well, Arizona Department of Transportation, they knew that they had an issue down there and they wanted to try to solve it by putting together, like I said, off-the-shelf technology, putting it all together to try to increase the safety of drivers going back and forth along that corridor. So along comes the monsoon season and I'm like, hey, let's highlight this dust detection system. I mean, this has won awards across the country, and I went to Arizona DOT, their traffic control center, because we have got a really excellent network of statewide cameras on all of our major thoroughfares, freeways, state highways, etc. I was inside that control room kind of talking about the technology that's involved with this dust detection system, and I just asked the simple question, hey, I want to shoot the computer terminal, kind of like what we see in front of us, of where the Doppler radar system comes in. And the answer was, well, we send that to the National Weather Service. Here in the Weather Department, we've got a great relation with the local Phoenix office. Chief Meteorologist Royal Norman and I, we discussed that. Royal made the call, and the answer was, Morgan, well, we don't get that feed. And that's when we realized, I think we might have a story here. And I went over and talked to Morgan about it, and now you can take it from there.
Yeah, and so we started making some phone calls, and we came up with this almost 5-minute long television news investigation that we'll roll for you right now. The giant walls of dust are awe-inspiring, but they can be a nuisance, and they can be deadly.
It's really a crapshoot, and you don't really know until the tones go off and when you get out there what you're going to have.
Kelly Weddle is the Eloy fire chief. His small department is responsible for responding to crashes on a notorious stretch of Interstate 10, a stretch that is plagued by dust storms. Are those dangerous calls?
They can be very dangerous. The dust makes it worse.
They pop up with little or no warning. 83 dust storm-related crashes took place here, about halfway between Tucson and Phoenix between 2010 and 2015, according to one study. And weather forecasters have long complained that this area is a sort of meteorological black hole. Is that area difficult to see as a meteorologist? Weather phenomena, dust storms coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. probably the biggest obstacle for the National Weather Service to do its job is observations.
Ken Waters is a retired warning coordination meteorologist from the National Weather Service. He says this area near Picacho Peak is too far south from the Phoenix weather radar system and too far north from the Tucson radar. It sounds like it's kind of a blind spot.
Very much so, very much so.
In 2016, the Arizona Department of Transportation began working on a $6.5 million high-tech dust detection system for this specific area, combining visibility sensors on the freeway with programmable speed limit signs and a new Doppler radar system that would send data to the National Weather Service, where forecasters could detect storms 40 miles away and fill in the radar black hole between Phoenix and Tucson.
So putting in a weather radar right there would be a tremendous asset to be able to detect at the beginning of a dust storm and then to be able to get those warnings out in better time.
Waters says the data would be useful for emergency managers, TV news meteorologists, even storm chasers. It had the potential to save lives.
We were extremely excited and when we heard about this.
The system went online in 2020, and ADOT was recognized with a National Game Changer Transportation Award. Just last week, ADOT published a news release touting how well the system has worked. But we found there's a problem with this Doppler radar. You see, it's never actually sent any weather information to the National Weather Service. For 4 years, it's just been sitting here on the side of the freeway, ready to work, waiting to work. What's the status?
The status is we are working on an intergovernmental agreement to get the data over to the National Weather Service, and it has taken longer than we had anticipated. So
Steve Elliott is a spokesman for ADOT.
4 years? That seems like it's way too long.
it really has taken longer than we had hoped.
Elliott says the visibility sensors on the side of the freeway are working and that they have alerted traffic 50 times since they went online. But the radar system is mired in red tape between ADOT and the National Weather Service.
From the outside looking in, it would seem like somebody dropped the ball.
I understand it is a very complicated process working between two agencies to share this content. There is good news, even after 4 years, that we're good on our side. We have an agreement over to the Weather Service. It's my understanding it's at the regional office. If it comes back signed, we're ready to go.
Back at Eloy Fire, they are bracing for the beginning of the monsoon and along with it, dust storm season. Word that the ADOT radar is not actually online was news to the fire chief.
I'll be quite honest with you, I wasn't aware that it wasn't connected.
Would that be helpful to you guys?
Oh, I would assume so, yes, sure. Anything that you can do to get a better warning has got to be helpful.
And we're back.
Yeah. I mean, the reaction from that Eloy fire chief was priceless. Like, didn't know. And a lot of people probably don't know.
Everybody seemed to think that it was up and running.
Well, you drive right by it. You see it physically from the freeway.
Yeah, who would think that it would just sit there and not be used? And when we talked to ADOT folks, and Steve Elliott, and I said, it seems to me that your agency has said that this was up and running, and he went through all of their press releases.
Sure.
And I think the first one that came out 4 or 5 years ago might have indicated that it was up and running, but since then, the language was sort of that it could be used for this.
Yeah.
Couched, yes, a little bit. But there were other news articles, there were, the announcement of that award. It
Sure.
all indicated that this was up and running, and you guys thought it was up and running, and we found out it was not.
Correct. And it's a major part of an entire system of technology. Certainly the technology that they've implemented has worked, and it's worked over 50 times and has probably definitely saved lives. But here in the First Alert Forecast Center, that's exactly why we First Alert. We want to give you that heads up, and a ground-based radar in kind of that dead zone between Eloy and North Tucson would give us And the Weather Service probably a couple more minutes heads up with severe weather heading that way.
Yeah, they could see it 40 miles away, they say, with this X-band radar. And can you pull up a map and show us what we're talking about here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what we're looking at here is the exact same radar that we can tap into from the National Weather Service. This is the ground-based radar based down at Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport. So that's the actual terminal and the sweep. So this is what we're looking at live here on this Thursday night, and it sweeps through and it can reach out, a couple hundred miles. But what the problem is with the curvature of the Earth, radar beams start going higher and higher and higher. Now there's all sorts of different settings that you can look at that can determine which clouds are severe, which clouds are turning into severe thunderstorms, and et cetera, et cetera. But when I go down to Tucson, there's the Tucson radar pops up down placed just southeast of Tucson. But it's when you come right here in the middle,
Yeah, just
right
north of there.
just north of there. So there's Picacho Peak, there's Eloy. Notice what's all around here. That is nothing but farm fields, like he said, and undeveloped land. This is the dust danger zone, about 13, 14 miles, and it is super tough to kind of get an indication of, do we have thunderstorms coming up from the south that's picking up all that untilled dirt and dust, and that's where it can really become a dangerous situation and drop visibility in an instant.
Yeah, and so at that point, the radar beams are sort of so high that there's this altitude that's that blank spot that this ground-based radar would totally fill in that blank. They said that it is running, it is being serviced. There is a data feed, and they said that they have access to the data at ADOT, but they don't have a meteorologist that can read it and turn it into usable information. That's what the National Weather Service is supposed to be doing.
Right.
This was a project that they had impact on, influence in. They got this grant in 2015 or 2016 that they used $6.5 million. The National Weather Service was in on this, so it was a big surprise.
Right.
2020, it's up and running, but it's not actually giving data anywhere. They have an agreement between ADOT and the National Weather Service, a draft of an agreement. I got a copy of the latest version of that. I don't know if I was expecting a 50-page draft with all of this technical language. It's basically 4 pages long.
Wow.
It's not the most technical document I've ever seen. Now, 4 years ago, maybe it was 100 pages long, and they've just boiled it down to this. If you listen to ADOT and the people we talked to at the National Weather Service, they said that it has gone back and forth, and that it is just that they have to agree on all of the terms. So I'm curious, as we continue to report on this issue, maybe we can get a copy of a prior agreement.
Sure.
If that agreement is signed, it's at a regional office for the National Weather Service in Denver right now, apparently. If it's signed, ADOT says they can start immediately sending the data to the National Weather Service, which would be great because we're going into our monsoon.
Right.
But the person I spoke to at the Weather Service said that they still are going to need to do some fine tuning so that they can take that feed and access the data. So I don't know that even if everything was signed tomorrow, that it would be able to be used right away.
And for an example, as we speak, that area, that dust storm danger zone that I just pointed out, is under a blowing dust advisory. Just today, from thunderstorms to the east, that blowing dust advisory actually expires here at 7:45. Is it just a simple case of we are dealing with a state agency and the federal government, two different entities altogether?
Probably. We don't know exactly what has been going on behind the scenes. 4 years is a long time to haggle over an agreement. And it wasn't like ADOT was asking the Weather Service to pay for the construction of this, because that was paid for by a grant. And we also know that the state has signed a contract with the manufacturer of this radar facility to continue the upkeep for the next few years.
And so that was a public document that you found.
Yeah, we found it. Our investigative producer, Cody, found it. And so it's set, it's running, it's being serviced. It's just this idea of how do you get the data to a different government agency, the federal government. There's got to be more to this. We've just tapped the surface, even though we've spent a lot of time on this. So I'm hoping that with more reporting, we'll be able to fill in the blanks a little bit. But this is also one of those stories where you hope that by shedding light on this and exposing it, that it prods these two agencies or whichever agency is dragging their feet now.
Together.
Just get it done, because that is something that could save lives. One of the questions that's asked to me when I talk to people about this story is, have you found any situations where if that radar was up and running, it would have avoided a big collision or pileup?
Right.
And the answer is we have not. And I think you can add more information to this, but we have been kind of lucky in the last couple of years where we haven't had these huge, thick dust storms that we've had
Called the
multiple
monsoon.
times.
Yeah. It's been a very slow thunderstorm season for the past several years.
Yeah, so the result is we haven't had one of those pop up in that area, but we do know that historically they happen there. That is the section that was considered among the most dangerous stretches of Interstate 10. So as fast as they can get this thing up and running and get that data out, it's just better for anybody who lives here and anybody who travels I-10. And I know that you guys would love to get this feed, because it would fill in the blanks and help you guys do your job even better.
Help us get those first alerts out even quicker to the general public. To wrap this up, this is, to bottom line it, it's all about public safety and taxpayer money.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a federal grant.
$56 million when they wanted to widen I-10.
Yeah, they used a big grant of $56 million to widen I-10 in that area, and they used $6.5 million there to do this pilot project to see if they could use this technology to make the freeway safer. Half of that project is in place, the sensors, the dust sensors on the freeway, and the signs that automatically lower the speed limit if there's dust detected and it gets to a point where you can't see very well. But that second half of it, the radar, is the part that is not online yet. And so that's the problem.
Right, and we feel, based on our opinions, that it would trigger that automated system even quicker, lowering the speeds even faster to possibly prevent those collisions down there in that dust channel.
Yeah, because right now the sensors will go off when the visibility is already to a point where you can't see. And it'll prevent you from getting into that area at full speed at 75 miles an hour. Maybe it drops the speed limit to 35. But if they could see that dust coming in 20 miles away, that just gives them more time to lower the speed limit or stop people from going through there.
All right, investigative reporter Morgan Loew with Arizona Family Investigates. That is mired in red tape, the full benefits of Arizona's $6.5 million dust detection system unused. You can look at it right now. You can share it with your friends on azfamily.com. It's on our website. It's on all of our social media channels. It's on our YouTube channel, and we appreciate having this discussion with you. We know that this probably will institute some sort of action on either the state or the federal government level, and we will be here at Arizona's Family to pass that along to you. Morgan, thanks so much.
Thank you, Scene, for breaking this story for us.
It was a team effort with Royal and Paul and everybody in the First Alert Forecast team. So on behalf of Arizona's Family, thanks for watching us. We will see you tonight starting at 8 on Arizona's Family Channels 3 and CBS 5.